so beautiful out there. It's raining. What's up, everybody? So listen, I know some of you have had a question about this here, my Subaru WRX, and I figured I would kind of post a kind of a small little video, I guess you could say, for this car. And some things about it, some things that are going on about it. I know it's been a while since I've done a video on this. I know I've been doing a lot of those running videos and so on and so forth. And I kind of wanted to give you guys just a little snippet, I guess you could say, of this particular car right here. Yes, it is a narrow body WRX. It is not the most ideal car that you would want in the Subaru family. But I bring this up because the new WRX is coming out and in 2022-ish, and the rendering videos that I have seen, it's, well, relatively boring, and it kind of reminds me actually of this car, surprisingly enough. But this car was actually kind of like a sleeper, so to speak. I mean, it was still a WRX, so you still got the hood scoop and a wing on the back. And they did put some ground effects kits on these things, but okay, so that's besides the point. But the thing was about this car is it looked bland and boring, and nobody really wanted one of these. So I actually ended up picking up one. Yes, it was not my first choice, but the big thing was the hatch. That's what I wanted, was the hatch. And that's the whole reason why I actually purchased this vehicle. But this car right now has 125, just over 125,000 miles on it. And I wanted to kind of do a video for you guys, basically, not necessarily of the mods. I mean, I've already done videos on the mods on this car, and I'll still run you through and kind of show you some of the things that are on it. But really what it comes down to is the maintenance on these things and making sure that these things perform at their best. And it's a lot of stupid, small, little things that a lot of people just don't do to maintenance these cars. They are fantastic machines if you just maintenance them, and they will last a long time if you maintenance them. And that really goes for any car out there on the planet, for that matter, is if you just maintenance your car properly, do your proper intervals of whatever that needs to get done, but then also taking care of the little things that might not be in your owner's manual. That's what's going to keep these cars going on the road for a long period of time. So with that being said, let's go and flip this camera around, and I'm going to show you a few things going on right here. All right, so let's flip this around here. Let's pop the hood, bonnet, whatever you guys want to call it. Doesn't matter. It depends on where you're at around the world, I guess. Here in the US, we call it a hood, but I can see why other countries would want to call it a bonnet. Yes, that is a carbon fiber hood scoop that I have put on here, because the other one that I had, the factory one, was faded, and it was cheaper for me actually just to get a carbon fiber one than it was to just repaint the old one, because I had to basically strip it, sand it, all that kind of shit, and I didn't want to do that. So plus it's carbon fiber, and I think carbon fiber just looks cool anyways. All right, so first thing you'll see is that big Process West verticooler sitting right there. This thing is absolutely massive. I mean, seriously, come on. So there's my hand, and the back of the, now my pinky is on the back of the intercooler right there. I mean, look at that. That thing is massive. It is huge. But anyways, I'm not going to get into that. So a lot of the maintenance that's been done to this car has to do with just a lot of basic maintenance type of stuff. And what I mean by that is like your spark plugs, your timing belts, so on and so forth. But actually, there is a lot of little things. Now, yes, I have added this Grim Speed. You guys can knock me on the internet for this damn thing if you want. I don't care. It's a daily driver and it works good. This is the Grimspeed air oil separator, which I looped into all of it. Actually pretty easy to install, I'm not gonna lie. It seems more difficult than it really was, but it works really well. So anyways, there's a lot of vacuum lines in this system. Yeah, any vacuum lines that go from your boost control solenoids that go to, I mean, various, you know, whatever these things are, purge valves and stuff like that. There's various vacuum lines that go all over the place in this engine. And one of the things that I noticed that you don't see on your maintenance intervals, you won't read it in your book, and it has to do with the vacuum lines. These vacuum lines, a lot of these hoses, you know, because of various heat cycles, going hot and cold, so on and so forth, they wear out, and they don't sit firmly on the nipple ends like they used to. So what can you do to resolve that? Because actually, if they are loose and you can turn them pretty easily or even slip them off, there's air that is getting sucked in between that and causes a vacuum leak. So it doesn't pull very good vacuum. Now, what can that do to your car? Well, it can actually cause the car to run rich, because now the computer is saying, oh, there's a little bit more air than what is metered here. So there's more air getting past this, which means we're going to put more fuel into the motor. So it decreases your fuel economy, increases carbon emissions if you actually care about that stuff, and being green to the environment, and just makes the car's performance. It'll make the engine idle rough. And if you have an access port like I do on the inside of your car, you'll notice that your vacuum is not pulling close to a -10 or higher, lower, higher, lower, whatever, lower, I guess you would say, because negative, so it would be lower. So it's not pulling anything lower than a -10 or lower than a -9 or something like that, without the AC on, by the way. Then you have a vacuum leak somewhere. So these cars from the factory should be pulling brand new about a -10 or lower, which means 10.5, 11, according to the access port from the factory when they're brand new. And over years and periods of times, that number actually goes up. And for a while, I started to notice, man, mine's pulling about a negative, I think it was like 8.1, 8.2 consistently. The engine felt like it was, you know, a little rough or whatever, but my fuel economy was terrible. Was absolutely terrible. So I actually went through and I had some maintenance work done to this car. I actually had my valve cover gaskets replaced, which I know I could do myself, but I didn't want to, so I sent it over to the dealership and had them do it. Come to find out, my oil pump, the gasket for the oil pump needed to be replaced, so they had to take everything off anyways, and they replaced the oil pump while they were in there. So hey, you got a new timing belt, new oil pump, hey, that should be good for a little while. Valve cover gaskets got replaced, same with the spark plug seals, all that kind of stuff. They put a fresh oil change in this, fresh coolant all throughout. Replace these clamps, you know, the stupid spring clamps that are gosh darn terrible. And they did it with the worm clamps, which are just so much better and so much nicer. They're just better. But after that was done, it ran better, and there's no leaks. There's no puddles of oil underneath my car, so that was a positive. And I said, hey, let me go through and look at some of the stuff, because, you know, it's idling okay, but it's not doing perfect, and I wish it was a little bit better. So I started to notice that lines like this, they were loose. Like you could turn it and twist it. Now, it wouldn't come off, but you could turn it and twist it relatively easily. And I realized it's causing a vacuum leak. So I zip tied that I double zip tied, as you can see, double zip tied. I double zip tied these, and I actually went through and kind of checked everything in this to try to make it better. So I went through and I checked all of the vacuum lines, and sure enough, there was a couple that didn't have any ties on them, zip ties or clamps or anything. There was a couple of them that were a little loose, so I put new zip ties on them. So I basically went through, and all of the vacuum lines that have to do with this particular engine, I've gone through and essentially zip tied all of them. Now, the positive for that is it creates a really good vacuum seal on just about everything now. And I'm pulling really good vacuum. And my fuel economy's gone up. And my throttle response is better. And the engine idles smoother. And everything just works. Honestly, you wouldn't be able to tell that this was a car with 125,000 miles on it. When it idles, it is so smooth and so quiet. Well, I mean, it's quiet because I have this, like, really quiet exhaust on the back. Anyways, but it's so quiet and so smooth that you swear this engine was from... It doesn't have 125,000 miles on it, but it does, and I'm telling you it does. I'm not lying to you. It has 125,000 miles on it. Anyways, but this thing is just, everything just works really well. It's all sealed up correctly. Everything works really well. Yes, if you're looking, yes, that is the factory bypass valve. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Anyways, but everything is just working so nice and smooth now, and my fuel economy is better. My throttle response is better. My engine's performance is better. It's smoother. It's just so much better. And the best part is the AC got fixed. Yes. In Florida, you have to have that, by the way. You have to have AC, and they fixed the AC. I actually had these two O-rings for these two lines. They were worn out, and the high and the low pressure, which is behind there, the Schrader valves that are inside here, they needed to be replaced because the little O-rings that are on those, they were worn out too. So it was just constantly just leaking and couldn't hold the pressure. So you could only really get good AC if you were moving and you had the RPMs kind of up, so it could make pressure out of that compressor. So yeah, that was kind of that. So now I have good AC, everything works good, which is freaking awesome. I love it. And honestly enough, it's kind of funny because when you turn the AC on, usually that sucks power. Now it doesn't. At least it doesn't feel that way to me. Like, I've turned it on and off, and it just, doesn't really feel that much different. Anyways, but yeah, so that's kind of what's going on there. You guys want me to go through all of the engine stuff here, I can, and I'll do it real quick. So we'll start up front here. We got the Perrin radiator shroud. We got a Mishimoto radiator. You can give me shit if you want about it. I don't care. It works, and it's got a lifetime warranty on it. It's got a Cobb SF intake with the aftermath hose right there. Yes, it is the stock turbo inlet hose because I'm lazy and I haven't done that yet. It's got the Grimspeed 3-port boost control solenoid. Yes, that's part of the Mishimoto radiator hose thing right there, the radiator. So yeah, cap. Process West Verdi cooler. The thing is just massive, by the way. Right back underneath there, you can actually see it right there. Right there. It's a Perrin turbo heat shield. SPT front strut tower brace right there. We've got the Perrin master cylinder brace right there. Works really, really good. We got the Grimspeed air oil separator here. Again, actually does, if you're like, okay, so here's the thing about that piece. If you're using the car as a daily driver, not racing it, if you're racing it, get a better catch can system or whatever, get the IAG or whatever. If you're just using this as a daily driver, that does a fantastic job, which is what I use it for. It does a really good job. But if you're actually racing it and using it professionally, you want to go with an IAG or something that's a little bit better, Crawford or something. But for me, that's perfect. I don't really race this car. It's daily driver. I don't care. Let's see. All right. Okay. HKS equal length. Give me shit if you want. It's an equal length, so it's gonna sound like a Honda-Roo. Equal length manifold underneath. It goes up, factory turbo, factory up pipe, because it's catless. Why do I need to change it? I know it's bigger diameter, but the turbo is also still small, so no point. And it's catless downpipe, 3-inch downpipe. That's a Rev 9 Power 3-inch downpipe. It does actually have a O2 bung on the cast part of the downpipe of the bell mouth, so I can actually put a wideband in there. I haven't yet, but I don't know how much further I'm actually gonna go and do work on this thing, to be honest with you. I may actually put it up for sale, who knows. I'm just looking. Yeah, power wire for a subwoofer. That is, oh, and behind there's a pitch mount. Can't remember which brand it is. It's not a major brand, but it works really good. But there is a pitch mount underneath there. Yeah, so there is that. Just looking through, nothing really much. Basic bolt-ons, tuned by Torque Performance. There's stage 3 tune on this thing. So that's kind of where that's at. Suspension, we'll do the suspension and I guess chest. Yes, eBay canards. Yes, eBay canards. Listen, it's a narrow body. I've got to do something to make this look like it's actually worth a shit. Okay, so front lip, canards. All right, there you go. Inky RS7s, 17 by 7.5, plus 35 offset with, and they're dirty as hell, with 235/45 17 tires on it. It's got Brembo front brakes, 13.5-inch rotors from an 04 STI, and you got the 4-piston front brake calipers. Suspension on it, KYB XLG struts with Petters Sport lowering springs on it. Nothing fancy, special. Does have Cartboy end links in the front with a Perrin 25mm front sway bar, adjustable front sway bar in the front of the vehicle. It's actually set on its softest setting, which is still like, I guess, 150% stiffer than the factory sway bar. I don't know any, I guess that's true. I don't know. I guess it does pretty good. So, moving on back, we've got these side skirt extensions. These are actually for a 2012 to 2014, the wide body, or 2011 to 2014 wide bodies. It does work on the car. It's the same length, but that's kind of what that is. Same thing with the wheels in the back. This is still factory WRX brakes in the back, but it's, again, KYB XLG struts with the Petters springs, and it's got a Blocks Racing 24mm rear sway bar set in the middle setting. It's a 3-way adjustable sway bar set in the middle setting to match the front, so 150% stiffer than the factory setting, both front and rear, so it kind of balances out. These are actually those universal side skirt extensions. I actually cut them down to fit the rear bumper, to give a little like apron right there, so I just thought that was cool. Listen, guys, okay, I know you're going to say something about the taillights being tinted on this. I bought the car that way. Leave me alone. That carbon fiber rear spoiler. It's one of those 4-piece adjustable rear spoilers on it. I just wanted one of these. I just thought they were cool. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I just think it's cool. I like it. And then in the back here, see the exhaust. That is a Miltech exhaust. It does have that big oval muffler underneath it, so it's really super quiet back there. It's just a quiet exhaust. It's got a really nice resonator in the middle of the car, and then it's got that muffler in the back. So even though it's catless, the car is actually really, really daily driver friendly, which I really love, because if I have to work in this car, which I do, I hate having all of that noise for long periods of times. All right. There's the subwoofer. Rockford Fosgate. 10-inch, 300-watt RMS. And it's easily removable, by the way. Ooh, it's dirty in here. Anyways, that's that. It's a hatch, and it's easily removable, so I can still load a lot of stuff in the back. Really, don't really need to see the back seat because it doesn't matter. Okay, in here, we've got a Pioneer App Radio 3. I'll probably change that out eventually, but App Radio 3, so it's got Apple CarPlay, which is kind of nice. As you can see, my access port right there, mounted up on the windscreen. Oh yeah, STI 6-speed manual transmission, came out of a 2009 STI. It is the full drivetrain, so 6-speed, R180 rear diff, all that kind of stuff. Really easy install, really easy install. No, it does not have driver controlled center diff. It's disabled, let me put it that way. It's disabled, there's no power running to it. There's really not a whole reason why you have to have it. At least in Florida. Other states, yes, but in Florida, it's not really a huge thing. It's got Polk Audio coax door speakers, 6.5 all the way around. But there's no amplifier running to them, so they sound kind of meh. Anyways, so yeah, but going back to the 6-speed, because I get a lot of questions about the 6-speed, you don't have to have the driver controlled center diff powered. Okay, so if you are running with no power on this, on the driver controlled center diff, it just leaves the diff open, which means it is a 65 in the rear, 35 in the front torque split between the two. Now, mind you, you do have to remember that it is an LSD rear. It is also an LSD front, and then there's a diff that's in the center. So there's 3 differentials on this car. That differential in the center being open allows the front to operate a little independently from the rear, which is kind of a good thing when you're talking about slip. Now, in Florida, you don't really need the center diff. Okay, really that center diff and being able to lock that center diff is an advantage for those who live in snowy conditions or take their car in an off-road condition. I do neither, so therefore I don't really need it. If you go drag racing with it, I guess it helps you out of the hole, but from what I've seen, most of them, it causes a substantial amount of drag when you get past the 330 foot point. So it's really not worth running full lock on a drag system with it. So it's just better to leave it open. Even when you take it to a track, most of the people that have it on a track are going to leave the diff open because it allows the rear end, in that 35-65 torque differential, allows the rear end to actually kind of rotate around a little bit better, more like a rear wheel drive car. So is there really an advantage to the driver controlled center diff? Sure, there is, but for the most part, no, not really, not in Florida. So that's it. Like I said, guys, you know, really going down to just about any car that you tend to work on, it all comes down to maintenance to make sure that these cars run for a long period of time, and doing simple things like checking your vacuum lines and sealing off all those vacuum lines can make a huge difference in the performance of your car, the fuel economy, and like I said, if you're actually into being green and doing good for the environment, you know, saving fuel and creating less carbon emissions is I guess always a good thing. But that's if you're into that kind of stuff. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. It always helps my channel if you click that like button or that subscribe button somewhere there, and click that like button. I appreciate you guys watching the video, and I would say, as always, guys, enjoy the run, but since we're not running in this video, just, you know, enjoy the drive, I guess.